Versatility. This is the Swiss Army knife of cameras, the Canon R5C. And it's with this purpose that Canon has designed this absolute unit of a camera, and something that I, as an all-round content creator and creative, have been begging the camera market to make for many, many years. The industry that we're in as creators has completely shifted. And if you're a creative professional, you'll understand this when I say that the expectations on us for client work and for our audiences has completely shifted. We have to do way more and deliver a wider variety of deliverables across social media and things that we never had to do before. And honestly, it's taken the camera world a very long time to catch up to this, or at least fully embrace it. 2022 is the year that I really hope that this comes to an end. And regardless of whether you're a Nikon, Sony, Fuji, or Canon head, you should be really excited about what Canon are doing here. It's the start of a new trend that I really hope doesn't go away. To give you a brief lowdown of the Canon camera ecosystem, the Canon R series, i.e. the R5, the R6, the R10, the R7, they are Canon's mirrorless range. They're at the forefront of Canon's photography products, and that's where the R in R5C fits into the name. Canon's C series are their high-end cinema cameras, and that's where the C in R5C comes from. It's right there in the name. This is a new hybrid camera designed to serve as many uses as possible. As a YouTuber and professional social media content creator, I'm going to be focusing this review on this particular line of business. I think this is the space that it's going to make the most impact. Many professional videographers are also creating their own YouTube videos and social media outlets to promote their businesses, and a good approach for me to give you my thoughts. But before we jump in, let's pay some bills. I'm really excited to let you know that this video is sponsored by AMD and PCBuilder. PCBuilder is a brand new way to build and buy your PC here in South Africa. Choose from a selection of extremely well-priced pre-built rigs, or go ahead and start building your PC with no experience required. Start by choosing the games that you want to play, then setting your budget, and the AI will choose a build that's perfect for you. Use that rig as a starting off point and configure your build further to get more granular with your PC gaming needs. The AI will even tell you what frame rate the games you've selected will get and at which resolution they're going to perform at. It'll even tell you what your power consumption will be so that you get the right power supply. You're choosing your build based on its benchmarks before you buy it, instead of guessing and testing after it's arrived. You can add accessories and peripherals before you check out if you need them, and in case you want to buy it later or double check the pricing with a friend, you can save it to your profile and make sure that you get the right build for you. You can even give your build a name. I'm giving away a PC that we're building on my Twitch stream worth around 25,000 Rand. So to enter, send me your AMD PC build that you've saved under your profile using the link to the competition under this video. For more information, make sure that you check out the pinned comment on this video or the link in the description for details on how to enter. T's and C's apply. The biggest key giveaway on the R5C, and probably iconic identifier of this range, is the power switch. It's got the ability to flip between photo and video mode from the off position, and this isn't just an aesthetic choice. The duality of the R5C is baked into two operating systems. One that I was familiar with, the R series, because I was coming from the RP with photography, and the other that would be familiar to filmmakers is the C series operating system. To access each of those operating systems, flipping to video will put you into the C series operating system, and flipping into R will put you into the R series operating system. Super simple. This has its pros and cons. It's great having dedicated workspaces on the camera, but if you're not familiar with either one of them, there's a learning curve to adapt to, which can be frustrating, especially if you're not familiar with a particular range or you need to jump into work. So just make sure that you have time to play with it thoroughly before your first client shoot with the device. The other frustration is that the video features in photo mode have been completely omitted. I get it, because you have a dedicated video mode, which is obviously far superior than the video mode on an R series, but because switching between the two operating systems takes a moment or two, not to mention, some setting tweaks. If you're not familiar with operating systems, sometimes it can be really annoying if you want to quickly film something while shooting video or taking photos, vice versa. In the grand scheme of things though, I think these are minor trade-offs to get the full extent of what's capable with the R5C's versatility. To add a little bit more confusion is the fact that the button layout changes completely depending on the camera mode that you're on. So thankfully, most of the buttons are customizable, so you can sort that out, but it can throw you off a little bit. Again, make sure that you spend some time learning the camera and setting it up before you do your first client shoot. I cannot stress that. Hopefully some of the quirks, like the operating system booting time, can be fixed in later iterations of software iterations and updates, but it's not the end of the world. Again, it's only like 5 or 7 seconds roughly switching between the two. And arguably, it's more convenient than slinging multiple cameras around to fulfill multiple functions. The camera body itself is a little bit bulkier than your regular mirrorless camera, and this is because they've solved the overheating issue that they had on the R5 when shooting in higher resolutions for longer periods of time. But it doesn't weigh in that much more than the R5, and in person it feels a lot smaller than it looks like in pictures. You look at the pictures and it just looks like a weight, but when you hold it, it's a lot lighter. Remember, a fan is actually hollow, very thin pieces of plastic. I'm very happy with the build and body overall, something I was a little bit nervous of, coming from a very slim Canon RP. Quickly, for the tech, lighting, and color nerds out there, like my editor, Kulile, shout out for cutting this. This camera doesn't only shoot in C-Log 3, which is currently Canon's premier log system that gives an entirely new dimension of freedom when playing around with exposure for your shadows and highlights, but it also has the capacity to shoot raw footage. What this means is that you can basically style your footage in post to look however you want. You can correct errors in lighting, change colors at ease without breaking footage. The footage quality is unreal. You're looking at 8K 60 frames a second if you're powering it through an external source like a power supply, or 8K 30 FPS and up to 4K 120 FPS. Yes, you heard me, 4K at 120 frames per second. I know this may seem overkill, but being able to shoot at such a high resolution at that speed makes for some incredible footage. It's awesome for some of our unboxings and product shots. You're also able to crop in without losing unacceptable amounts of quality, which is great on the editing floor. Thank you, Canon. Thank you. On a side note here, on this like higher level of quality, I often get told by other YouTubers and content creators that 8K or even just 4K is excessive for YouTube and that nobody's watching in 8K, so why would you bother filming in that resolution? This is especially for South African content creators. Quality should actually matter. Firstly, as a YouTuber, you're on display with the best creators on the platform. If you're a tech YouTuber, you're competing with people that are making videos like MKBHD. That kind of quality, that's what they're watching next. It's not just other creators in your area. You're not competing content-wise with the person that's making content physically next to you. YouTube is a big space and you are competing with other people in your niche. Secondly, you should be making content that is evergreen, which essentially means that it's relevant for as long as possible. The higher your quality, the longer it's going to stand the test of time. Thirdly, YouTube compresses any video that you upload. So starting at a lower quality as a base point for YouTube compression is just not a great idea. I believe best practice here is to upload at the highest quality that your setup can handle, that you can export at that high quality, and let YouTube's compression do its thing. I know there's diminishing returns and that's not for me to tell you, but you cannot control how YouTube ingests your video or how it's going to ingest your video in the future, but you can control the quality of the footage that you give YouTube. Now that that rant's out of the way, here's some footage examples of 8K 12-bit RAW that we've graded and 4K 10-bit graded. It's juicy. Let's talk about something that really excites me about this camera, and that's definitely the video exposure tools. The hardest thing to be able to tell on any camera's LCD screen or even the external monitors that you get to see your footage is whether or not your exposure is correct. And that's why the first thing that most professional videographers and cinematographers buy after sound equipment, obviously, is an external monitor like an Atmos. It's not just so that they have a larger monitor to view their subject on, but rather because it comes with a whole bunch of exposure tools loaded onto the device. Zebras. South Africa would say zebra. Let me know in the comments what you say. Anyway, zebras are just the easiest exposure tool that you can have, and you can turn these on and understand what your footage is doing. They're very simple to understand, but you can tell using them whether your highlights are clipping or if the footage is overexposed. And it's great to know so you don't have any hotspots in your image that just destroy your footage. Videographers everywhere are going to be rejoicing. Canon have included a waveform monitor. This is very useful in making sure that your color temperature and colors are as close to where you want them to be. It uses scopes like in Lumetri or the color grading tab in DaVinci to show exposure values in an RGB format. This is really neat, especially because you can simply see how things react in real time. False color is what most people call the best exposure tool. What it does is take exposure values that your camera would read about things that are underexposed, overexposed, evenly or even perfectly exposed, and everything in between, and gives them color values. It stops you from guessing whether your subject is properly exposed and tells you how exposed your subject is instead. That's great because you should theoretically always have things lit the way that you want them to be lit, right? This is probably one of the single reasons that my videos have jumped up in terms of quality after using the R5C, because good exposure goes a long way in terms of producing really quality content. One of the biggest controversies with the R5C is that the stabilization on the camera isn't as good as the R5. But there's a reason for it. It's using something called EIS, or Electronic Image Stabilization, which is the same as you'll find on their higher end C series like the C70. These are more professional cameras, and they don't often include analog forms of stabilization because most professional videographers are probably rigging their kits to gimbals or other stabilizing rigs. The alternative is called IBS, IBS is irritable bowel syndrome. IBIS, which is an analog solution to an in-camera stabilization, can increase the price and weight of the device and is more susceptible to failure because more moving parts means potentially more links in the chain for failure on a shoot. Unfortunately, IBIS yields better results than EIS. So as a content creator that avoids gimbals, I'm a little bit disappointed, but I'm also very aware that most cinema photographers really don't see this as a deal breaker. I like to have more stabilization in camera. Autofocus in video isn't as fast as I'd like it to be, and honestly, a bit confusing coming from the regular R series cameras. It's something that I'm still wrapping my head around, but again, there's cinematic logic to the way that C cameras do their focus pulling and how you use focus in film mode. So if you have any resources that can help me improve that and understand it better, please link me to those as well. It would make that part of the camera a little bit easier for me to use. There's a full suite of audio tools, including a headphone jack for monitoring, on-screen audio levels, and a regular mini audio jack. But one of the trade-offs is no XLR inputs like other cinema cameras. But it's compatible with XLR shoe mounts like the Tascam CA-XLR 2DC. What a crazy name. That is a long name for a device. I haven't tried it myself, but I'm gonna link it in the description so that you can find one for yourself. In fact, I mentioned a few peripherals. I'm gonna put them down there with an affiliate link. Want to pick one up? Go for it. I, for one, am glad in some ways that the XLR ports aren't included because it's just gonna bulk up the camera if you were using it for photography. Like, it's just gonna be really unnecessary to be there. I see a lot of reviews online complaining about this, but that's literally the design ethos of the R5C. It's the perfect combination of photo and video. So it's gotta cater for both, and I think some of the most extreme use cases has to be culled. A great thing about the R series cameras, and not many people shout about this, is their ability to run off USB power, provided that you've got the proper power delivery brick adapter. That means that you can shoot continuously without stopping and starting like you would on older model Canons. And you can shoot for as long as your memory card can handle. Power delivery 3.0 or PD 3.0 in a lot of product descriptions that's what you're gonna be looking for when you are on Amazon. You're also gonna need the correct USB cable that supports fast charging. So digging around for one can actually be a hassle. Not all USB-Cs are created equally, unfortunately. That said, you should be able to use any Mac USB power cable or notebook that is powered by USB-C. I cannot even begin to tell you how many times this feature alone has saved one of my shoots. In fact, we're shooting with R5C now. We're using it right now, plugged into the wall. This is also extremely important because of the batteries that the R5C takes. It takes the E6NH lithium batteries, which don't have the longest battery life. On shoot, you're gonna be hot swapping a few of them. Trust me, they are like magazine cartridges for a gun. There are some alternative batteries in that size from third-party companies like Duracell that fit the R5C if you're strapped for cash, but the Canon E6NH batteries are probably the ones that you would normally go for. I am using some Duracell ones. I haven't tested them long enough, but the fact that they do exist means that's great. Just check the milliamp capacity of the batteries. You want the ones that do the most. The Canon E6NH batteries do have more capacity than the older versions that were used on the 70Ds. So even if you've got an older Canon camera, maybe those batteries will work. They are going to drain super fast. So make sure that you pick up a few newer ones when you pick up your camera as well. Also want to add that because it supports power delivery 3.0, there are a lot of external battery packs that also have power delivery 3.0 charging in them, which is great. So a lot of people are jerry-rigging shoe mounts or putting them on cages, your external battery, and those can be a lot cheaper. On a side note here, being powered at the wall with a Power Delivery 3.0 charger is particularly great for live stream. If you have an Elgato Cam Link, you can run an HDMI out from your camera into the Cam Link and bring your feed into your PC like you would a webcam for inputting into live streaming software like OBS, and you're getting the ability to use your lenses, the high resolution feed from your HDMI on the camera. It's chef's kiss. So that's about it for video. So let's jump onto some photography really quickly. Internally, the R5C has a 45 megapixel full frame CMOS sensor. This is an incredibly capable camera for photography and top of the line in terms of quality. The R5 is a superb camera and Canon stable, and you get pretty much that. You get a superb photography camera. Because the focus of this video is around generalist content creation, especially digital content creation for professionals, I'm gonna be avoiding going too in depth here with the photography part of this video, but instead I'm gonna scope in on a few features that are important to digital content creators in general that I found made a difference for my production. Great photography sets creators apart and can really put you into new income brackets if you can deliver the goods. Learning how to monetize excellent visual products for clients outside of posts is actually a video that I should be making for another time. So let me know if that's something you want to see. But regardless, fast turnover, high quality images, and outstanding production is important at excelling in this particular industry. With that in mind, the autofocus in photo mode is much easier to grasp. I'm used to this, and it delivers faster results than it does in the video mode. That autofocus and the power of the R series lenses combined makes this a really world-class experience. And if you've ever used the R series lenses, you know what I mean by that. It can shoot really fast, like 20 frames per second fast. So you're likely to capture the shot that you're gonna wanna get if you just push the trigger down and have that in that setting in continuous shooting mode. And because it's essentially under the hood, an R5, you get the focus detection technology of the R5. It's got head tracking, face tracking, eye tracking, vehicle detection, and animal detection. I don't know what's weirder, animal detection or vehicle detection, because those aren't my spaces, but whatever kind of content that you're creating, animal or vehicle content, you're likely to be catered for here. Here are some examples of a shoot that we did just to test it out, and you can let me know what you think. And then of course, it's got Canon's Wi-Fi transfer, which is great for being agile in the field. Take a few pics, use the Wi-Fi to drop them onto your phone with the Canon Camera Connect app, do some quick light edits in Lightroom. Lightroom on mobile has actually excelled. It's pretty incredible. And post directly to Instagram from your phone. I do wish Canon would make this part of the process a little bit more seamless, but right now it's robust, which is important. It works, and it's way better than it used to be when they first had these features, so I'm glad that it's there. It sets you as a creator apart. You could be at an event and you can upload those photos and they will be infinitely better than the people's who are just using their phones. Tweak them, upload them before anybody else, and boom, your photos look great. Wedding photographers do this sometimes with their clients, and it just gives that nice touch. Bride and groom want their photos to share to Instagram that day, and you can take 3 or 4 selects and hand it to them right there and then. It's just a nice value add. I mentioned it earlier, but again, one of the biggest reasons I went to upgrade from our RP to this R5C, and I know that it's a massive upgrade, okay? But we needed to do it. It was my existing stash of R series lenses. Honestly, they are, in my experience, the best lenses available on the market. They are some of the fastest, sharpest, and premier lenses that you're gonna find at this particular moment. So getting a body like the R5C that's catering to just about every need I have as a content creator and that supports my lens collection made this an instant decision for me. It's perfect for content creators or if you have a wide variety of client work. We're shooting service videos for clients where the expectation is really high-end production, all the way down to short-form videos that, and Instagram posts that just need to be up as fast as possible, and a camera that comfortably and reliably handles all those demands, caters for us in a way that cameras didn't before. It's a no-brainer. I honestly believe that the R5C is the start of a very exciting series of cameras from Canon, but also potentially a mover that the whole industry needs to take note of. Let me know what you think, and if you've got an R5C, what your experience was. And if you have the time, check out our G7X review and Canon XA40 reviews. See you in another video.